Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Is this thing on, man? Ooh, okay, I project a little bit, maybe too much. I apologize for that. Anyway, hi, I'm Maxim Lazirko. I'm a doctoral candidate studying under Professor Vashaheli, and my dissertation committee is currently present, except for Dr. Applebaum, who unfortunately is not here right now, but she may be on Zoom. So this essay right here, which I'm to present to you today, is part of my second essay in the dissertation. And it is called Assessing the Risk, a Comprehensive Methodology for Evaluating Laundering Likelihood in Cryptocurrency Exchanges. And let's get right into the show. So the main purpose of this sort of essay is motivated by my understanding of crypto. I've played around with it, and I see that it's extremely volatile, and it led to a bunch of questions. Me wondering things like, why does it behave this way? Why do consumers put trust into a system that essentially you put money into it, and you hope that you get more money out of it, which by nature seems to be a Ponzi scheme. But upon closer analysis, we can perform some research and try to gain an understanding of what is going on. So my first essay, where it focuses on what's happening mostly internally into the cryptocurrency ecosystem, this part more focuses on external factors, the exogenous variables that could be potentially affecting these cryptocurrency exchanges. Originally, this essay was focusing on cryptocurrencies, but we decided to narrow it down exactly to exchanges because it's easier to create a risk score for exchanges. And one of the motivations behind all of this is that there has been reportings of criminal activities, and according to the United States government, any sort of crime that occurs using wires, and the internet uses wires, it is a felony. So there's a lot of criminal activities, and regulators, of course, want to get a cut of the cryptocurrency pie, and there's reasons for studying this. And one of the reasons is laundering. This paper does not use laundering in the traditional sense, but rather it refers to laundering as using the properties of cryptocurrencies, such as anonymity, to obfuscate potential transactions and maybe to hide some suspicious transactions and through money. And some of the issues that this paper looks at would be, what are the security, the infrastructure, and so on. And the whole purpose of this is to help better inform people how they can make more wise investments. So overall, this research is motivated to help regulators have better decision-making, investors know what they're getting themselves into, potentially the exchanges themselves to reduce their own risks, so they could use this as a metric. And for businesses, if they want to get into crypto, how should they evaluate these exchanges, which are highly unregulated? So, for starters, I've already previously mentioned that cryptocurrencies have a innate transparency into the architecture of their design. And how do we keep track of a transaction when you only know the sender, the receiver, the time, and the amount? Well, there's currently some methods that have been tossed around, such as using machine learning and AI in order to gain an understanding and have an attempt at data analytically understanding of what sort of macroeconomically at least is going on with cryptocurrencies. And through these patterns, some law enforcement have actually been able to figure out criminals, but it's still quite difficult. And there are certain techniques that help audit these cryptocurrencies. I just noticed the pen I dropped. And these techniques would include things like chain analysis. Now, some of the limitations of these techniques is that they are limited, for example, to a singular cryptocurrency, or they may require the user to be a participant in the protocol in order to audit it, or when you were trying to perform an audit, rather than auditing the entire exchange, you are auditing your own personal account, which really doesn't help people understand the big picture of what is happening. We all remember FTX and Three Arrows Capital, where there was a crash in the crypto market because of mismanagement of funds. And there are plenty of external factors beyond just the mere cryptocurrencies themselves that can impact the security of investment in a cryptocurrency exchange. So, what has currently been done to deal with this issue? Well, besides my essay on trying to help the exchanges disclose their on-chain obligations and their off-chain obligations in a double helix manner, and me trying to understand how metaverse marketplaces impact cryptocurrencies through my STEAM paper, which some of you may have seen before. Not much has been done specifically for risk scoring in crypto. However, there is decades of research that is built on traditional currencies, and there's, of course, tons of anti-money laundering literature. So if we are to try to create an understanding of cryptocurrency specific risks, and we want to understand the risks associated with the exchange, we of course would need to have the information that separates traditional currencies from cryptocurrencies. And some important things to look at might be the mechanisms that would facilitate these suspicious transactions. Yes, you have a question? Oh, sorry. So the first mechanism that allows these suspicious transactions to occur would be the inherent nature of cryptocurrencies. They're inherently anonymous or pseudo-anonymous by design, which allows people to obfuscate their transactions. There's also a plethora of mixers and tumblers. What mixers and tumblers do is they take clean money, they take dirty money, and they mix it around in order to try to prevent people from knowing what's going on. Additionally, there are some privacy coins that are offering some sort of additional security through the design of the protocol. And there are exchanges which are actually decentralized. In literature, these can be known as dApps, decentralized applications. Also, one of the problems behind cryptocurrencies is that cryptocurrencies are global in nature, which is why they are actually outright banned in some places. Because they are global in nature and regulations can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, it's difficult for lawmakers to even create some sort of standard because they don't know where the transactions might be even coming from. And
what do you mean by saying they're global in nature and they're banned in some place?
So this makes this issue more complex.
No, I mean, how can that be? They're both global in nature and banned in some place.
Well, cryptocurrencies are global. They are utilized worldwide, whether legally or illegally. However, they are banned by jurisdiction in some places.
China.
Like China.
Yeah, it's like Bitcoin in China.
I know, so then it can't be global, right?
Well, it can be utilized
Global.
globally, illegally.
This context means you can access it anywhere, right?
Well,
You just say you can't access it anywhere.
Well, you can access
I mean,
it.
the US dollar is global. You can buy US dollars anywhere too, right?
Yes.
No. I'm just trying to make,
What word would you like to use?
right?
Quasi global, global adjacent,
No, the point I'm gonna make is,
international?
You can have US
No.
dollars in places where
I'm just
US
making a more
dollars are
general
illegal.
point with respect to all of this, right? You know, when you say that inherently cryptocurrencies facilitate money laundering because of their nature, right?
Yes,
Okay, you know, that's not quite true because the governments could also ban tumblers, for example, right? If they can ban access to Bitcoin trading in China, they could also ban use of mixers and tumblers or coin join or anything else, presumably, right?
correct.
So then it's not an inherent aspect of cryptocurrencies. It is how you access the crypto assets that is the source of the problem, right? I just wanted to clarify that, right? You see what I'm saying?
I don't see what you're saying. So say it again.
Right. It's semantics. It's not the cryptocurrencies, it's how you access them.
Yes,
Is the argument.
because if you can ban Bitcoin from being traded in China, China could also ban the use of mixers and tumblers, right?
Oh, because the mixers and tumblers might be in another country.
Well, Bitcoin is not in China either, right? So then how do you ban access to Bitcoin in China? You understand what I'm saying? How can you got to be consistent, right? If you can ban anybody in China from buying Bitcoin, you're saying that they can't ban them from using mixers and tumblers?
Yes, I am saying that.
How?
Banning something doesn't always stop people from doing what they want.
That goes without saying, right? But I think you should clarify, right, why Bitcoin has, according to you, technological features that make them specifically susceptible to money laundering in the way that, for example, online gambling sites are, right? Because they also can do all these things that you just mentioned, right? But they don't use Bitcoin.
Correct. Or they don't necessarily have to use Bitcoin. There are actually some.
Okay,
crypto-
you understand the point I'm making,
Yes.
right?
No, we don't understand the point you're making. How many understand the point he's making? Oh, one person does.
Yes, two people.
Two people.
It's not magical point I'm making, right? It's fairly obvious, right? If you make a statement like the underlying technology of Bitcoin facilitates money laundering, you've got to point out what is different about it that is different from
It's the.
trading in US dollars or online gambling or any of the other mechanisms used for money laundering.
Totally sure what you're saying, Mark. But.
We're all confused.
But ask somebody else then to explain.
One of the main routes of illegal money, black money or gray money is to cryptocurrencies. And when the FTX problem occurred and etc., what actually came by is the Bitcoin value went up very rapidly because people got afraid of these other values and went to Bitcoin that was a safer route. But is the easiest channel for illegal money exchange.
Easier, I mean, but also FTX has nothing to do with money laundering. FTX was simply fraud, right? They were just stealing the money for their own personal.
Yeah, but that's not.
I know, so they might mention it.
You're talking about access. Countries, when they make it illegal, they increase the barriers of access substantially. And this is something to be thought very carefully. And Yao, where is Yao? Yao is looking into government issued crypto, and why is that? Because that's the direction things are going to go.
Anyway,
Go on. You are right. One of the goals is, for example, I just gave Dr. Kohan a newspaper. Russia now legalized crypto, and Russia also minted their own central bank digital currency. So basically, my guess is because of the current situation in Ukraine, Putin is being pushed to try to at least adapt to the modern Western markets. And I, from personal experience, have known people who are Russian who have utilized crypto despite it being banned. I'll give you a hypothetical case. Someone I may or may not know has an apartment in Russia. They want to move the money out of Russia, which is not legal in Russia, but they don't care because they don't want anything to do with that government. So what they do is they go there, they sell the house for crypto, move the crypto here, exchange it for US dollars, and everything's okay.
So that's exactly what I said. It's a great route, tradition, like Bitcoin, etc. It's a great route for gray money. And even if countries forbid it, it's still a route because Michael was saying X. Okay, but the barriers become much bigger. And the moment the government issue their own crypto, and they have ways to limit substantially the trade.
And I agree with Professor Alice. Definitely banning it in some places makes it more difficult. For example, in the Soviet Union, speaking of traditional currencies, the US dollar was banned to own by most people. I would know my grandmother is an accountant. And just because something's banned doesn't mean people won't use it, but because it's illegal, it puts more pressure on the people to try to hide what they're doing. Or maybe they might be more hesitant to invest in such a system because of the potential penalties of getting caught.
Max,
Yes.
during the Khrushchev time, they changed the law retrospectively. And possessions and operations with foreign currencies became punishable with capital punishment.
Yes.
And they actually shot a number of people in the early 60s, even though they conducted their transactions at the time when it was not punishable by capital punishment, but they changed the law retroactively. So there were not many takers in the Soviet Union. So showing a dollar bill to anybody would scare the hell out of them.
I need to continue. This is an interesting discussion, though. I will definitely add some of this to my updates. But another method people want to facilitate suspicious transactions is they might mix a bunch of transactions and layer them in order to make it more difficult to track from step to step for what is going on. And there's also a technique I found called coin join, where users combine multiple transactions into a single transaction, which also makes it more difficult to track. Okay.
Layer two.
Yes, essentially it creates like a second layer transaction, which makes it more difficult to know what is being traded. In addition, there's people who create fake shell companies and initial coin offerings. This happens all the time. For example, a developer can create a cryptocurrency, hype it up, people say, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever, invest into it. People put in money, they sell all of it off, make profit, run, value plummets, investors lose their money. This is what makes newer cryptocurrencies and maybe newer exchanges be more riskier because of these pump and dump schemes. Also, people use crypto ATMs including to further launder. So this table right here discusses some of the stakeholders of this crypto crime. Some of the stakeholders include the financial institutions that may be utilizing crypto. Some stakeholders might include the regulatory authorities because they're trying to, of course, tax people and they're trying to enforce whatever regulations that they have and prevent the fraud from occurring. The users of the crypto and the technology providers, because the technology providers create certain chips, for example, to help mine the crypto, and the criminals because they're the ones who made the crime in the first place. Okay. So in this table, I've just listed some of the current frameworks that are utilized to prevent crypto crimes, such as cooperating internationally with other countries, educating users, current transaction monitoring systems, and so on. So what we did in this paper was we based it on Dr. Isa's exceptional exceptions, which uses a weighted risk score in order to assign risks to each transaction. So in a similar manner, we can therefore assign risks to each crypto exchange. So right here, this is the model that was utilized. And basically the way this model works is that each risk indicator is indexed from I1 to I whatever, and we loop through all the indicators. So these indicators could include or not
Each transaction.
No, each exchange. I was basing it off of Dr. Isa's paper.
But in either exchange or
Yeah, the exchange, yes.
all these, there are 140 or whatever.
For each exchange that you're trying to analyze and compare. I will show an example of how this works. But what's important to notice is you need to make sure that you are being consistent with your units of measurement when you are trying to apply the risks for your comparisons. So you could create a decision matrix. So you have your risk indicators and the weight assigned to them. I will get into how you could potentially come up with this weight. And you have whatever exchanges you're trying to compare the risks of. So this slide just shows potential risk indicators, but this of course depends on the exchanges that you are comparing. But the paper recommends some potential risk indicators. So the way people can utilize these risk scores, they can categorize the exchanges potentially similarly to how stock market options work, where you can categorize the risks based off of whether you want to hold off on buying from this exchange, whether you want to sell your assets in this exchange, or this exchange is pretty safe to buy things from. So as a method to obtain the weights, one method that was suggested was using a regression between some variables and then plugging in the betas as your weights.
So can you just go back and show us what the measures are?
Yes. So some of the risk indicators could be, for example, like the transaction patterns inside an exchange. What anonymity features are provided by the exchange. What services the exchanges can provide, because sometimes exchanges offer additional services. Where the exchange is located, is this exchange banned in some locations, in some particular?
So, I mean, how many exchanges are there?
Hundreds, thousands, I'm not quite sure.
So, and how do people choose between?
Luke follows around 100
140.
Yeah, how do people choose this now?
So the idea is you want to invest in an exchange. You don't know which one. So you pull up some exchanges that might be a potential option. And then you weigh the risks between each exchange, and then
This is a free market, right?
yes.
Supply and demand. So
Correct.
you're looking only on the demand side. We should look at the supply side, right? The easiest way it's up to a fund to meet these proposed risk indicators, like engagement in high risk, transit into high risk countries, right? In use of privacy coins and so on, right? All of those things are things that the exchange makes a choice on, presumably, right? They can choose not to go to have transits from Russia, assuming that the people in Russia aren't able to use a VPN and say they're in India, right? But assuming that that's stupid, right? The point is that the people who create these exchanges, they are choosing where to position themselves, right? So it's not a question of the consumer trying to choose between 10,000 transactions. some of these exchanges are going to choose to make themselves easy for money laundering or whatever. So that's how they get their market share, right? Okay, so the easiest way of figuring this out is to look at what the exchanges are selling themselves as, right? If they are selling themselves as people who turn a blind eye, for example, or we never check where anybody is going, we value your privacy, right? That's a high risk indicator in its own right. You don't need to go through this elaborate procedure, right? Just so look at it from a supply demand perspective, not just the demand side.
I have not considered doing that. That's a good point. So the idea here is we can look at different risks and try to understand the risk scores. And if anybody is interested in my research or they wish to contact me, please do feel free to do that. And I will leave you guys with the graphical abstract of how this is envisioned in my work. Thank you. Yes.
The problem is worldwide, no question. I don't know if penalizing it at the exchange level is what you should do. And then the second thing, I'm not totally sure that the Bayesian model is what you should do. It's just, I think the problem is a very good thing. You are very fancy notes. That's very interesting. That's like.
I have one quick question.
I lost mine.
Yes.
So you describe, the risk on the cryptocurrency very nicely. You described it socially. But, the two things I want to get is, number one, the cryptocurrency issue, the risk can be also coming from NFT, right? Somebody can use NFT to get money, right? Or somebody can sell it at a higher price and they can also. Did you consider the NFT, the security risk from NFTs? Because it could be used for money laundering as well.
You are correct. So I actually should have titled this a little bit better because I should have said crypto assets, and NFTs are a type of crypto asset which is available on the exchange. You are entirely correct. Additionally, I've looked into stable coins, and crypto and NFTs are interesting. By nature, they are inherently deflationary because there is an artificial scarcity. And stable coins and central bank digital currencies are inherently inflationary because they are pegged to something that does not have this artificial cap necessarily. And I assume looking at NFTs and stable coins and CBDC would certainly impact the risk score.
And another quick thing, your title is anti-money laundering and monetary risk. But somebody doing wrong with the money part. But crypto can be used for election voting, managing the assets, let's say car, or real estate, or things like that. In many jurisdictions, these are being tried out, right? That can create risk. It is not a monetary risk, but I'm just wanting to know whether, what is your opinion?
So the only way I have addressed this so far is if there is something that is legal in one jurisdiction, partially legal in another jurisdiction, and completely legal in another jurisdiction, something that is fully legal will receive full jurisdictional weight. Something that is partially legal will receive a partial jurisdictional weight. Something that is completely illegal should therefore have no jurisdictional weight. That is how I have addressed this so far. For sure, jurisdictions have a significant impact, as Dr. Alice has mentioned, on the crypto assets, even despite the inherent global nature of crypto.
And the last thing I want to say is, we already talked about the NFT, we already talked about the crypto uses for things other than monetary use, like realistic transactions and so on, right? We can also introduce the risk. And the last big thing is you mentioned about the
Can I ask a question?
crypto or, and what poses the risk, right? What about the technical risk by, like say, some of the transactions, right? So transactions are not completed, those transactions are hijacked, in the matter of fractions of seconds. And, some of the technical risk.
Correct. There's a delay, which would definitely impact the market, because if you make an investment assuming that it's stable this second, the next second it completely just falls, you were entirely correct. There are multiple technical risks associated with crypto.
So you may want to add some of the technical risk before the block is, signed. There are many risks, also the smart contracts again. If it is only restricted to Bitcoin or Ethercoin, or also the smart contract, it can be used for money transactions by consortiums and others. Sorry,
Line, yeah,
Yes.
so I think we,
At lunchtime,
lunchtime, yeah,
or
exactly.
indication.
yeah, I appreciate you had, covered not many things. And I think this is a novel thing I've seen.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.